Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, Bryan Danielson kicks Colt Cabana's tooth out on AEW Dynamite.
CM Punk and MJF drop multiple references to WWE on Dynamite.
Ric Flair shoots hard on WWE, saying he would never work for this person.
And an update on Johnny Gargano's WWE contract status. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray.
And this is the news.
Colt Cabana lost a tooth on Dynamite, didn't he? Bryan Danielson on the show had promised to kick his effing head in. He ended up kicking some teeth out of his mouth, or maybe it was just a crown. It looked like a crown.
You dropped this, king.
Yeah, it looked like a crown when it was sitting there on the mat after the match. Unclear where exactly it came out, but it was probably when he was stomping on his bloody face.
Yeah.
So the match existed as a part of the wider program between Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson. Danielson wants to beat up the Dark Order for fun in the build to it. We got the Cabana match last night in Chicago. Tooth was there at the end. Danielson obviously won, and he was holding it in his palm afterwards, going, "Hey, look what I did to you, Colt Cabana." Hangman Page came down afterwards. It's just a fun visual, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's threatened to beat up other members of the Dark Order. Where are they next week? Atlanta?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
He said there's a couple of them from there, and I'll kill both of them. I'll kill everyone in the Dark Order, basically. I also like the fact that I think it was in an interview recently, he said, "No, it's not a heel turn. It's just me being me." You're a git then.
Yeah.
If I'm perfectly honest, Bryan Danielson. But yes, it is slowly escalating something that started with him trying to be amicable towards the world champion.
Yeah.
But we all knew that was never going to happen. And the fact that we've talked about this before, the fact that they've established so many different ways that Bryan Danielson can finish a match showcases the danger that he possesses, not only for the world title, but also, tearing through the Dark Order and hurting quite a lot of them. And we saw last week, he had Evil Uno beat, and he went, "No, I'm going to put him in a submission hold rather than just pin him." Beat the crap out of Colt Cabana. Great to hear the reaction that Colt got back in Chicago. We'll talk more about that in a second when we get to CM Punk.
He needed to book himself an appointment with Britt Baker, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Well, let's hope it was just a crown because...
Yeah, it looked like a crown.
Yeah, fingers crossed, but still, a hell of a visual, like
somebody
you
let Danhausen know about this.
Yes, indeed.
That's key.
Let's continue talking about AEW Dynamite because there was an epic fire promo off between MJF and CM Punk to kick off the show. A 20-minute opening promo. I thought this was AEW, not WWE. But still, I'm joking, comment section, come on.
Hey, what? Look at this page show over here.
Hey. Bit like I never wear WWE shirts.
Literally every day, yeah.
But anyway, yes, there was a lot of references to WWE dropped in this promo. I really enjoyed it. A lot of people have been talking about it on Twitter today. We even got a Twitter question we'll get to about it. Punk described MJF as a, quote, less famous Miz, which got a great, reaction from everyone in the crowd.
Really
and the same response sort of followed when Miz came back. It was Miz, Jesus Christ. When MJF's, apologies to Maxwell, came back and described CM Punk as PG Punk. And he said he might as well be out here preaching hustle, loyalty, respect. Love that line. And later, MJF, who was just milking it from the Chicago crowd. He just said that CM Punk, he's from the second city, and he's always been second best throughout his career. Whether it was the "you can't see me" man or the King of Kings, you were never up to snuff.
Triple H,
he said.
Triple H reference. It's good.
It was just epic, this, and in 2 weeks, this feud has gone from, that'd be nice if they eventually did it, to white hot. Yeah. Arguably more hot than Page and Danielson, and that's great as well.
It was just a tremendous segment. It wasn't the best episode of Dynamite.
No.
As a whole, which I'll dive into in my review article on the website. Check that out. But this segment was really good, really good. Really smart of them to kind of play on Punk's past with two controversial figures from his past in particular.
And references UFC career.
Yeah, exactly.
Career.
Just lots of really good barbs. I really liked the way MJF started grabbing low-hanging fruit and just calling him old and stuff. And then it transformed into this whole other beast when Punk called him a knockoff Miz. And I particularly like that line coming from Punk because that comparison is typically made by the bad faith act. Like, people on Twitter who the first heel they ever saw was The Miz. The only flashy, like, chicken heel they've ever seen is The Miz. Like, that kind of character never existed before in pro wrestling. Who say that MJF is that, and Punk knows it's a bad faith argument and kind of an asshole point, but he did it to be an asshole. It's good stuff.
It's wonderful.
Good stuff.
Honestly, if you've not watched it, go back and watch. Like I said, Dynamite, I agree with you, Andy, was a bit all over the place last night. Although I did really enjoy that Chicago crowd chucking the what is the word? Weight belt. I'll get there at the end. Chucking it back in the main event to Cody.
Maybe we need to stop throwing that belt in the crowd because that almost clocked Aubrey in the head.
Yeah, but still, without a doubt, that the highlight of the show was that opening promo off between the two of them. So go and watch that if you get a chance.
Good stuff. All right, we're going to talk about Ric Flair. Woo Nation, second week of podcasting, and it opened with an explosion, pretty much.
Yeah.
Rick just shooting hard coming out of all this. So the whole thing kicks off, and Mark Madden asks him about some recent tweets. They go over a bunch of different things. At one point, Rick said, "I've made more money from the first week of podcasting than I did in my entire first year of wrestling."
Same for me, actually.
Yep, me too.
That's true for me as well. I've made more money in podcasting than I ever did in wrestling. So.
I'd like to introduce Rick to my friend Pinocchio at some point. He went on a bit, said that he'd never held talks with AEW. He's not hurting for money. He's not looking for work. There was obviously rumours of AEW, but he says he's never spoken to Tony Khan about it. He had previously told Vince McMahon that he would never work for the competition unless WWE did some really stupid stuff, and now WWE have done some really stupid stuff.
No, surely not.
What? How could they? But the real meat of this interview is him just kind of going in on WWE. He's talking about having his woo removed from, the little vignette they play at the start of the show is replaced by the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, I mean, the list of people I'd rather be replaced by is endless.
I get why they replaced the woo, but picking Warrior, not exactly like, oh, well, we'll get rid of this person because they've done bad things, but Warrior, he's fine.
Absolutely, and we should be making clear that, Ric Flair is been accused of some really disgusting stuff, so we're not, but our thoughts on that, we've covered that extensively. So he goes on a little bit saying he could never work for Nick Khan. In his entire life, he says, Vince McMahon I could work for, but Nick Khan, who's the guy who orchestrated taking me off the show. I've got my facts together. Nick Khan orchestrated taking the woo off. He would never work for him in a million years. Rick said, the big difference between Tony Khan is that Tony respects me, as does Vince. Nick Khan has none. He's a disrespectful man, Nick Khan. I talked to Vince. I got no problems with Vince. He just knows I won't come back. And he continued, there's even more here. This is a pretty big allegation. Let me just tell you something else that should not shock the world. When I saw that they took me off the opening and all that for whatever reason, I call it a lack of respect. Some people said to me, Rick, how do you feel about that? I said, well, after they asked me to sign off my intellectual property to them while I was on life support, nothing that company does surprises me. So, it's Ric Flair, man. It's Ric Flair, obviously. Accused of some pretty terrible things that were resurfaced in the recent discussion of the Dark Side of the Ring episode. So, what do you do with these words? I don't know.
I think I'm very much nowadays, when it comes to older wrestlers, I take everything they say with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time you think like, why is this story only just coming out now? Now with this, it's not like he's talking about something like Hogan would from 30 years ago and gone, actually, this is what happened. I've never said anything about it before. This is obviously more recent and stuff.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you what you said there, Andy, with regarding the accusations made towards Ric Flair. We're not going to talk really any more about that.
Just horrendous.
Enough. Yeah. All about that. But if what Rick's saying is true, and considering how heartless WWE are, I wouldn't be surprised in terms of getting him to sign things away whilst he's potentially on his deathbed. Yeah, it's an awful thing to talk about, and unsurprising that he probably doesn't want to do any business with them or AEW or anything anymore. He's doing phenomenally well with that new podcast. Yeah. Genuinely one of the best wrestling podcasts out there that isn't ours. we'll
get off the
overtake
top
him on the
spot.
charts
Yeah,
again.
don't
He's doing
worry
well.
about it.
He's a flash in the pan, this guy.
He can have his moment.
Indeed. Right, let's conclude by talking about Johnny Gargano and his contract status. Major update coming from No Crap, Just Sap. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. You may have seen this coming out late yesterday. He signed a contract extension, but if you're a fan of Gargano in NXT, don't get your hopes up. He's effectively signed a 1-week contract extension. His contract was due to expire on the 3rd of December. It now, according to reports, expires on the 10th of December, which obviously allows him to take part in War Games and anything sort of fallout-wise from that before, well, one would assume leaving the company, Andy.
Yeah, shades of Adam Cole in this. It's
Yes.
pretty much, apart from them forgetting when Adam Cole's contract expired or whatever it was, signed the extension to work through. Johnny Gargano just being a good dude. He'd have been well within his rights to say no, bugger off, but he's not. He's doing a good thing. So, yeah, respect to him for that. Lord knows where he ends up next. All reports suggest he's a good, easy to work with guy in these negotiations. But if I'm Johnny Gargano, I'm going to Tony Khan and going, hey, they've offered me this. What are you going to offer me? And then going to Vince and going, hey, Tony just offered me this.
Yeah.
And going back and forth until you get something good. That's how business. But yes.
Yeah, and his missus is pregnant and stuff. He's got to take
got a
care
lot
of his
going
family.
on.
So I think if he does stick around in WWE and you're one of those people desperate to see him in AEW, maybe don't be horrible to him on the internet because he's just trying to look after himself, his family, and his future. I'd love to see him in AEW. I mean, that would mean both halves of my favourite match of all time, Colt Gargano, 2 out of 3 falls, would both be in a new company that maybe would prioritise how sensational they are in the ring. But like you say, just a top bloke to do this sort of business. And nice to see that he's finally getting to compete in War Games. I think he said that was the one thing he's not ticked off his list in NXT.
And if he's on his way out of the company, he's probably getting pinned in it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And probably, I don't know, do something bonkers off the top of it, as we've seen many years. Hey, if Pat McAfee can do it, anyone can.
Yeah, there you go. I've always said that.
Pat McAfee in the ring. Anyway, let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE. Of course, you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Richard DeGrucci.
Richard.
Dick says, morning lads. Do you think MJF is the guy to end Punk's return streak, or are you in the opposite boat? Last night's interaction between the two solidified MJF as the guy to do it, in my opinion. Stay golden, fellas.
Oh, wow. Well, Richard, I'm a man of many boats. And in this case, I think that both are good options. I think there's good stuff you can do. If MJF is the one to beat Punk, maybe he cheats, because he's MJF. He's never cheated in his life, but maybe if he cheats, that could be a good point to really awake the dragon in Punk, bring out the edgier side of him that is slowly emerging in recent weeks in promos and matches and whatever. So that's a good option. But also, Punk being a little bit of a cheating scamp himself kind of furthers the MJF narrative of I get screwed out of my big matches.
Yeah.
John Moxley, all that stuff.
Well, this is what I was going to say, Andy. Richard asks a good question there, but he's kind of got it twisted. It should be, is CM Punk the guy to end MJF streak? Because he's never lost a singles match legally. Moxley wants to use an illegal move, or Jericho wants to get the referee to restart. It's not how it works.
Yeah.
But in answer to your question, no, I don't think MJF should be the one to end CM Punk's streak. I think he should be the one to end CM Punk's streak and retire him, because MJF is the greatest wrestler in professional wrestling today, and we all kind of know
Apart
it, don't we?
from Gangrel.
Edward Shirazhands gives us our second question of the day. He says, with Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, no, it's just Angel now, or Angel, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, no surnames for you, pal.
Being the handsome bastards of WWE, who could be in the handsome bastards tag team of AEW, and why is it Ricky Starks and Adam Cole? Oh, it's so many choices.
There's lots of Wardlow's in that conversation.
Let's not forget the tightest tits in the game, Ethan Page.
Ethan Page, absolutely, very good-looking man. Ethan Page. The roster is full of what? Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy.
When he grew out that little bit of facial hair. Oh, you cheeky bastard. Be still my beating heart.
Have you seen how cut the blade is as well?
Yes.
Options. We got options.
Yeah.
Ricky Starks for sure.
Luther.
I mean, he looks a bit like me, so.
Let us know your thoughts. But yes, the obvious one is Adam Cole and Ricky Starks, and that's the reason why I don't let my wife watch AEW. What are you watching, dear? Pornography. Doesn't matter.
Don't come in.
Dustin Sensitive gives us our final question of the day. A nice little multiple choice this. We haven't done these for a few days. Morning, guys. Would you rather take a tombstone from The Undertaker in his prime, the salt of the earth from MJF, or a pump handle slam from Rick Boogs?
Oh my god. Well, a pump handle slam would drive the wind right out of you, wouldn't it? Especially coming from just a muscle. He's just one massive muscle, Rick Boogs, isn't he? He's solid. The Heat Seeker, was that the other option?
The salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth. Oh, yeah, MJF could probably snap my arm quite easily. So I'm going to go for the Undertaker because the tombstone looked devastating, but it was always pretty safe.
Yeah, I don't want to become like John Oliver with Adam Driver, where he's like, crush my chest, you mountain of a man. Yeah. So I'm not going to say MJF because it's going to get a little bit weird. So I'll go pump handle slam from Rick Boogs. As long as he plays me like a guitar as well, because yeah, that's just sensational. Let's move on to today's, and finally we reported the devastating news yesterday that Scotty 2 Hotty is on the way out of WWE, and I just want to share this lovely image that Rhea Ripley posted of herself and Raquel Gonzalez carrying, look at his little face there, carrying Scotty 2 Hotty and heaping quite rightly praise on him. One of the best coaches I've ever had the privilege to train with, says Rhea Ripley. I love that man, and I want to... Please tell me that if this, what they said is, because you know it's all that bollocks about like he's got to request his release, he can't just leave. That doesn't happen in wrestling. I'd say thanks, Scott, for your time, and absolutely if you want to leave, can we please just have one more Royal Rumble appearance? Please, just one. Honestly, me and Phil would rip our cocks off on stream if that
That's
happens.
a good reason not to.
That's a promise, Scotty 2 Hotty. Let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comments section. He's off below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Dadley Boys sitting down to review AEW Dynamite a little bit later on today. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter. You can tweet us at WhatCulture WWE. You can follow him at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for, hey, where's Andy gone? You can follow me at Adam Will. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.